Hi, I'm Amy Friedman. I'm an English professor at Temple University in Philadelphia. And my talk that you're about to watch is called Computational Satire Humanities. And it's a new field, and we're looking at code, quantitative measurements of the impacts of satire, and what do the humanities bring to the computational. Enjoy.
Hi, welcome. I'm Amy Friedman, and this is why women's clothing has to have pockets. This is why we demand pockets so we can put our microphone apparatus in our dress as we prepare to give our first ever talk at the Wolfram, thank you, Technology Conference at the newly introduced thread of Computational X. Apparently, some fairly large part of hell has frozen over, and I am here up on this stage. What I'm going to share is Computational Satire Humanities, a brand new academic area that I'm launching now. Okay, this is my abstract, and yes, I will be reading a lot of what's on the text. What's on the screen. There are rules about good and bad presentations, and number one is don't read to the people what's on the screen. I will be reading to the people what's on the screen. So I have an upcoming book, actually, it's out this week, and I talk about the importance of satire literacy in the current cultural, political, media climate, and reference a banned Iranian satirist who's currently in exile in Singapore. And his statement is, political satire is often one of the first targets in press crackdowns and other attempts to limit political freedom owing to its critical examination of power and authority. As such, political satire can be regarded as an index of freedom of the press. When I came across that, I stopped because it seemed, I liked the idea of a metric, an index, something measurable. Is there something quantitative that can be pursued in this humanities discussion, which is, has always been considered to be a qualitative mode of assessment, a qualitative area of study. So this talk considers some approaches to quantitative analysis of pushback. I'm moving back and forth, by the way, because I've noticed that when I stand behind the computer, I disappear, you can't see me. And this stage is not equipped with the box that I need to stand on. So I'll just keep shifting back and forth. So my talk considers approaches to analyzing quantitatively pushback directed towards satire, exploring possible metrics for measuring the efficacy of satiric literatures of resistance. And the whole area of can satire be a literature of resistance is something that I address in my book. So it's something I've been thinking about a lot. I'm using Mathematica to try to extend the modes of analysis currently on offer. And I'm going to be looking briefly at some of the current extant textual analytical tools that one can easily access. My coding abilities are nascent. I don't know if anybody came to anybody else, some of you came to the really wonderful talk by the Maimans, and Stella Maiman shared her code on the screen, and I thought, crap, my code is going to be on the screen, and it looks like I wrote it with a crayon. Hers is gorgeous. But I left it up here because I actually want to demonstrate the learning trajectory that I'm undertaking. So my coding abilities are nascent, but my aim is to illustrate as strongly as possible some of the types of queries that drive the research of literature scholars, who rarely make an appearance on this stage, and which will inevitably contribute to the future shape of the evolving discipline of computational humanities. Is writing the same as writing code? Suppose you're asked to teach a writing-intensive class for a university. Writing is one of the core skills that we expect students to get better at during an undergraduate education. I teach writing, I teach college-level composition, I teach literature studies. Most future employers expect to hire graduates who can write. They will happily teach in-house protocols and practices to new hires, but not writing skills. I don't know if you can see my little cartoon. Writing is 90% procrastination and 30% panic. Different academic disciplines use writing differently. In the social sciences, you'd expect to use writing to record interviews, data, findings, and relevant connections to extant research efforts. In the lab sciences, which many of you practice, writing is the tool for recording hypotheses, steps in planned experiments, and empirical outcomes. In the humanities, though, writing is our process. Writing is a means to articulate, examine, analyze, compare, and contrast, and most importantly, develop our ideas and observations. It is common to expect the process of writing a project to have the potential to reveal new ideas as we write, to enable the unfolding of new connections and the generation of new ideas. I was experimenting with background colors. In humanities, writing is how we work, in addition to ultimately also being a record and a way to communicate our work. We do not have proof of concept, but we are okay with that. We just keep trying to generate new and better questions. What is satire? I made you a word cloud. So satire is a genre, a mode, a type of literature and image. Satire's method is to attack using ridicule, and you can identify it in something that you're reading or a film that you're watching. Is there a target of attack through the method of ridicule? Sometimes satire is funny, but satire is not the same thing as comedy, and they're two disparate areas. Literary satires can be poetry, prose, graphic novels, and that's primarily what I work in as a literature scholar. Cartoons represent a lengthy satiric heritage. Today we have to add modern media such as film, video, mockumentary, blogs, and so on. So I went to Wikipedia, and I made you this word cloud. Satire at Wikipedia is primarily satire. Then I added an extra empty slide, and then apparently twice I added another word cloud. Mathematica notebooks are full of mystery. Has anybody else noticed this? In a good way. So I made my own word cloud that comprises elements of satire so that we're on the same metaphorical page for what we're talking about. So the tools of satire: burlesque, irony, wit. It's referential because it always refers to something outside of the text that it's attacking. It may use antithesis, caricature. It can be highly erudite. People can read satire and not know that they're reading satire because they may miss the reference. So it requires a bit of tuning in, contextual information. It often references historical specificities, but in such a way that it may resonate with current events going on. And so an older satire still has relevance today. And which is why the study of satire tends to eventually go back to classical writers and then through a long heritage of writers up till today. Okay, troublesome literary satire, the Rushdie Affair. What a lot of words I wrote. Okay, and that's some of my large, messy code. Even I can't read this, it's so small. All right, there are not many extant metrics for examining the impacts of satiric writing and satiric writing of resistance as a measure for freedom of expression. But we can start with the question of how to begin to measure the impact of such writing. Salman Rushdie's satiric novel, The Satanic Verses, was published in 1988, and almost immediately encountered pushback for its satiric content regarding its fictional origin story of Islam. Many know that a fatwa was issued against the author for this book by the Supreme Leader of Iran on the 14th of February, 1989. So how much did the banning of Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses impact the world? How can one visualize this as a condition and as a discussion and question-generating problem? Okay. My map is not showing. Any suggestions? Okay. I shall now evaluate the cells starting from the top. Okay. Okay. I have many cells. I shall continue evaluating. Gosh, this is fun. Now I know why you people are so intent on doing this all the time. I don't even have a cursor anymore. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, I take it back. This stuff is magic. All right, and if we get that to go, animate, come on, okay. There. I made a map, and what comes up are the countries in the world, and at the top there's a box that has the date, and it indicates when was Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses banned on a national level in the world. So I had this question, and then I was able to address it in that way. I'm probably going to have to do more evaluating. So I want to expand my question, but in a humanities manner. What does the global impact look like if I add to the national level of book bannings of Rushdie's Satanic Verses, 1988 to 89, the additional events which the publication and subsequent translation of the book prompted up to 1995? These events comprised book burnings, protests, fire bombings, attacks on individuals and locations, and assassinations of translators and editors. Oh, the suspense. Okay. All right. I believe I have to evaluate my cells. I'm evaluating my cells.
I think you have to evaluate the blue one.
This one? Okay.
Top one.
All right, okay. Everybody's so helpful. Okay.
The blue should go dark.
Okay. Oh, no, that's wrong. Okay. I can do evaluate all? How do you do evaluate all? Okay. Input. Let's try that one. What, previous step? Can I go back? Oh, wait. Something's happening. Okay.
Keep going. Down.
That's it. That's all I got.
Well, that's the private one. No, I think there is something below it. Next slide.
No. Okay. See if it plays. Okay. So this is an animation. Oh, no, that's the same as the one before. Okay. It is the one before.
Keep going down. Keep going. More.
Okay. Oh, this one.
The blue, yeah.
Okay.
Above. One above.
Oh, okay.
The one that has. The ones that blue. And it goes dark. And if you do all the blues. And the one that says animate.
Okay. I don't know. Wow. Teamwork. Awesome. Okay, and then come back. The suspense is palpable. Okay, so it's hung up on something. All right, it did. It caught up. There are people in this room who can see the future. So what I was able to eventually generate, an image that conveys how much of the world was impacted by the banning of and subsequent events. So the Rushdie Affair, how did it impact the world? What's a picture? How does it give me a snapshot of what was going on at that time? So now I want to just briefly touch on some other tools that exist for digital humanities work. There's the HathiTrust that has this bookworm tool, and you can create a line graph showing word use trends in 13.7 million HathiTrust volumes. So I created a line graph showing word use trends in 13.7 million HathiTrust volumes. I searched for satire and censorship, and I got colored lines stretched out over dates. And I understand how this is a useful tool for people who work in linguistics, because very often literature scholars do things like this, and we say, I don't know what to do with this, but okay, so there were words. going in these directions over this time period. And people say, oh, but that's very useful for linguistics. But I don't do linguistics. I would have to go back and do a degree in linguistics to be able to do something with this. So there are divisions and specificities within humanities work, but from the outside it probably looks like we all do the same thing, i.e. we all ask the same kinds of questions, but we don't. So this is nice. It's a very nice tool, because when I need to look at 13.7 million volumes stretching from 2000 to 1700 and make colored lines, I know where to go. This is Voyant tools, and I can input text or I can reference a website and push a button, and then it produces all of this. And I captured it like this because I get this sense of small things and total overload of information working in this milieu. And I did spend quite a bit of time poking around and trying things out. Not all of these methods and tools make sense to me because they seem to represent quantitative analysis deployed purely for the iteration of quantitative analysis. Here are some tools we made. Now, what can you do with them? My initial take is that they have been deployed from the digital side of digital humanities without much consultation with the humanities side. I'm often not exactly sure what to do with them. This is a demonstration, a digital humanities query. What can I communicate about the current state of censorship against satirical publications in media and against satirists in the world today? It brings us back to the question in my abstract. How can I convey this information in quantitative terms? I want to consider events from 2018 to 2019 so that my focus remains current. I want to share a sense of an historical moment which can generate new lines of inquiry. So I read online a bit and I started to notice a trend. The New York Times the Washington Post recorded that the New York Times had cut all political cartoons. And cartoonists, they said, are not happy. And then reading, I found out longtime contributor Patrick Chapette, among others, got a week's notice that cartoonist contracts would be cut. He's done a very good TED Talk about the power of cartoons, which I recommend. And then I kept reading, and the New Statesman recorded that that there'd been a public furore. I missed that. I missed the public furore. But the New York Times ceased publishing political cartoons altogether. The Washington Post declared that, quote, editorial cartoons are democracy's canary in a coal mine. And that goes back to this idea that repression of satire is somehow related to our loss of freedom of expression, freedom of the press, and so on. So this is a Patrick Chapette cartoon. It's from a while ago, but considering the state of California at the moment, it's strikingly relevant. Okay, so my sources were the website for Reporters Without Borders and reading newspaper reports about events that were impacting satirists today. So 2018 to 2019 is what I limited my searches to. And I was looking for material about attacks on satiric writers, cartoonists, on satiric publications, on satiric radio shows or entire stations, satiric television shows. And what I found was a body of information pointing out that satirists in this period were being detained, imprisoned, publications were being obstructed, radio was blocked from broadcast, television blocked from broadcast, newspapers, satiric newspapers were being shut down, or newspapers that published satiric content. Satirists were being fired for producing satiric content, threatened, and murdered. Okay, it's another map. Why is that so small? Okay. I know what to do. All right. Can I make that map bigger? Click on it. Thank you. It says a voice. That sounds oddly familiar. Okay. All right. Somehow I didn't know you could still do all this stuff when you were presenting on the stage. Okay. So this is what I produced. There's a key down here. Okay. So darker brown, detained. Darker violet, imprisoned, turquoise, publication obstructed, light orange, radio blocked from broadcast, brown, TV blocked from broadcast, blue, newspaper shut down, rose color, murdered, olive green, threatened, orange, fired.
I see blue as a bellows.
Yes.
I didn't know that something happening over there. Yeah, but they do have a dictatorship in that country.
Okay, my initial discoveries. This map is somewhat troubling. There are incidents of repression of satire in my global hemisphere. Why are there incidents of repression of satire in my global hemisphere? I expect few. I really anticipated few because I assume a somewhat static degree of freedom of expression in certain countries. So I resolved I must look into this. And how does this map compare with my Rushdie map of satiric repressions? How can I demonstrate that significant relationship? Stay tuned. What my initial inquiry opened up are additional avenues of inquiry and so I was enabled in trying to represent what would readily be qualitatively met questions through quantitative means. I ended up opening up new avenues, different questions, different approaches, which was kind of amazing. So my overall discoveries. In general, code seems to be primarily outcome-oriented. The correctly constructed code produces a definitive end result rather than being anticipated as potentially generative of a new creative starting point. But writing code, bringing the quantitative to bear on qualitative modes of analysis, also prompts one to formulate questions in radically new ways. And this energizes and innovates established disciplinary practices, and this is a truly wonderful outcome. And one I kind of can't stress enough because this is a new area of academic enterprise for me to step into. And I wanted to leave all the messiness and basicness of how I was learning because I know I can make it go away, but that's the process. And also having it there, to me, represents work and thought and the process. So, and coming from a writing, a discipline that emphasizes writing so much, what we try to encourage in students is to recognize that things don't turn out perfectly on the page. There's a process of thinking and drafting and redrafting, and that's all part of your writing. But in a nutshell, to be so energized and inspired about one's discipline after decades in one's discipline is an incredible gift. To be really revved up and excited, even though you've been in this space, this intellectual space for a long time, is quite something. Many of the presentations delivered so far under the rubric of computational humanities at this conference, denoted by the vibrant violet color in the program, have struck a common note. They have brought to this event the incredible vivacity of arts and culture and the inspiring innovations of human-centered scholarship through Russell Foltz Smith's investigations of art and AI this morning, Jay Weininger's narrative of using code to incite awareness of creativity in the study of math, also this morning, and the mind-altering mindfulness explorations of Stella and Philip Maiman. And in each case, to which I'm adding my own emphasis, they have stressed that humanities brings to computation significantly different ways of thinking and processing information. Specific to the concept of writing, I tender the argument that computational humanities needs to step in the direction of acknowledging the role of writing code as the generative tool that writing words already comprises for humanities scholars. Can computational humanities develop to recognize the act of writing code as a creative, generative, developmental process rather than as a means to reach and record desired outcome? What can the role of code be to illustrate and quantify abstract ideas and real-world problems and to generate new questions? Stay tuned. Thank you.